Ah, Anno 1800. It's finally here after all this time. And for the past 2 weeks, I've had nothing but you lot dry hump my leg, going, please cast the crow of judgment on it. I want to hear your thoughts. And do something like a series with it, and everything else, and whatever. Fine. Okay, so, you want my opinion of it. I suppose I better start it off then, hadn't I? Good heavens. Right, Cassius Pocket, you'll do. Right. Let's get the blunt out of the way first. Is it good? Yes and no. Alright. It does a lot of things right, but it does a lot of things wrong. Alright. Let's go over the good stuff I like first. Alright. First things first. There are lots of side mechanics in this which are quite nice. We've got the Anno feel again. The formula has been re-established. 2205 broke a lot of the foundations, but they tried something new. However, and those foundations were like the heart of Anno. The trading system was dead. The diplomacy was almost dead. There was nothing amazingly exciting about the gameplay. There were some nice ideas in it, but the fundamentals were broken. 1800 has re-established those fundamentals. So we've got transport routes, the focus on logistics, we've got an emphasis on goods creation. Alright. We've still got things like the calculator in there. No. There you go. We still have the goods calculator, but it's been added as a tooltip. Something I kind of complained about from 2205, and I thought that was a really nice touch that they put that in there. Maybe they were listening to me, I don't know. But it's nice to think they possibly were. So emphasis on goods is back. We've now got layered tiers again. There are some really nice touches. I like this. This is a nice thing. How your warehouses actually have loading ramps. It takes time to load and process goods and that. Again, it's a nice little thing. It's not essential to the game, but it is nice. Okay. Fields. We have plantations which have adjustable fields. They're all built in 1x1 tiles, so you can stretch them out and shape them however you want. So you can create some really nice little farming communities like what I've got here. Also, they're great for filling in those little tiny nooks and crannies that you couldn't fill in. And it also gives a sense of experimentation when it comes to building plantations and layouts, which is quite fun. I like that. So that's a good thing. We have the newspaper as well. Again, it's a nice mechanic. The newspaper basically is like a global modifier. You spend influence, which you gain through expansion, to spin the news however you want. And basically these last for half an hour. You can spin it so all the negative news, which would piss everyone off, is suddenly just pushed to one side. Basically, you become CNN or the BBC, taking the realities of life and shoving it aside in favour of something completely horseshit to try and distract people from what's actually going on. A nice touch. Not an amazing mechanic, right? Not a game changer, but it is nice. Okay. I like that. That's good. We've covered 1x1 factories. Workers are now back in.
Proper job.
So we've now got actual workforce, and depending upon the tier you want, will depend on how many jobs are available and so on and so forth. Again, this is good. I like that. All right. Needs have been broken down into must-have and would-like. A nice touch. I kind of like that because it saves. One of the problems I had with 2205 was you would burn through the majority of your workforce developing for the complete of the needs that you need to expand. However, you don't need all those goods to expand now. You only need the must-haves. Like, for instance, we've got need for market, fish, clothing, sausages, bread, soap, because they smell, and a school. Satisfy all those, and then you can upgrade them to the next tier. The happiness is what they would like. And happiness will, basically, it allows you to take the piss when it comes to cracking the whip at the workplace. You can actually push factories to work harder or work less depending upon the needs of the people and whether or not you want to start messing with production ratios. Again, it's a nice touch. I do like this. There's like 5 ways now of interacting with the people. So you've got, they'll complain about pollution, they'll complain about the news, they'll complain about whether or not they've got goods available, whether or not you're at war, and what the working conditions are like. That's basically idyllic, alright? You've got standard working hours, you've got pollution, which is all good, and that's nice, and you're satisfying the needs. And as a result, you're going to get more money. It's not going to increase your workforce, but you'll get more money from it, which means that you can put it towards other things. So it's nice for developing a community just to generate goods. You only need to satisfy a fraction of the shit to keep them happy. To a degree. That's the good stuff. Multi-sector gameplay is back again, which is really nice. I haven't actually got it on this save game because at the moment I'm chopping shit up. I'm bidding save games and trying new things out and new strategies and formula and so on and so forth. But multi-sector gameplay is back, and thankfully the loading screen is instantaneous. It's almost like that. It's like when you go from land view to underwater view in 2070. You haven't got to wait for it to load, and that's really nice. There's also now a time delay between moving between sectors as well. So how I kind of envision multi-sector gameplay working has actually been implemented in this game. So you have your islands as such, and basically it's like classic Anno. You've got your islands, you've got your fertilities. Fertilities are back, by the way, which is a really nice thing. Basically all the fundamentals which 2205 broke have been reinstated, and that's good. That really is good. Trading routes, again, are also back into the heart of Anno is alive and beating. This is, I'm really happy about that. Okay? However, it's not brilliant. It's not a great Anno game. And there was something about this that's been pissing me off immeasurably. I had the feeling during the alpha, I had it during the closed beta, I had it in the open betas. There was something I couldn't put my finger on that I wasn't enjoying about Anno. I thought it was burnout at first. Maybe I'd played too much and it wasn't gelling with me. And I even sat down and spoke to a few friends of mine. They were like, it's logical. It happens, okay? You may be looking forward to a game, you get it, and then suddenly it's like, you don't want to play it. Hang on a second, I need tea. Someone actually complained about that I drink tea while doing this stuff. I'm like, son, I'm British. What else am I going to do? Stand in a queue in the rain? Honestly, God, when I first read that comment, my eyebrows went up so high they nearly joined the hairs on my arse. I've never slapped a child before, but believe me, I'd use the buckle end of my belt on that one. Anyway, moving back to the game. So, there was something about 1800 which was bugging me, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And I sat down and I hammered it out with a few friends of mine. And I came to the realization that whilst 1800 rebuilds the heart of Anno, it doesn't expand upon it. There are a lot of missed opportunities in this, and they are quite disheartening. For instance, let's go back to 1404. Okay, the last three games are the most popular. Okay, of course there are other Anno games beforehand, but a lot of people join from 1404 onwards. 1404 had a sense of wonderment about it. Okay, early on in the game, you are introduced to the Orient. You need spice in order to further expand your civilization, and it's introduced early on at Tier 2. So you travel south, and suddenly you're introduced to a whole new world. It has its own visual theme, it has its own music, it has its own sense of diplomacy, it has its own production chains. It's a nice touch. And it also has its own mechanics. You had to fertilize the soil of the desert using norias in order to build upon it. And it kept it interesting. It kept the building, it got the brain going basically. And that was a good thing. Okay? So in addition to juggling the plates of the Orient, the Occident, you were juggling the plates of the Orient. And it made the game fresh and fun and exciting. Then we had 2070. 2070 basically took the chain off, and it went absolutely batshit insane. Suddenly we were introduced to this wonderful science fiction future. We had science and technology, we had research and development, amazing mechanics where literally the entire game could be customized through modules that you could develop, research and construct. We had ecology versus industry, where you could negatively and positively affect the output of plants. Basically, they took the Noria exploit from 1404 and built onto it and introduced it as a core gameplay mechanic, and it was really good. I liked that. And then we had the wonderment of going underwater and developing underwater technologies. Again, really, really nice. It was unique. We had three factions. You had the Ecos, you had the Tycoons, and you had the supporting faction of the Techs, or the SAAT, who, through the expansion pack, were fleshed out even more so. So Deep Ocean became an absolutely fantastic Anno game. The fundamentals were in place and they built upon them in a beautiful sense, and it really made the late game interesting and fun. A lot of people didn't like 2070. They were like, oh, I don't like the future, and I don't like the Ark being a form of online DRM, and blah blah blah. Basically, all the shitty excuses you could think of to not enjoy it. Which was hilarious, because it's like, when did it come out? 2013? Yeah, you were online pretty much all the time then, so the DRM thing was a fucking shit excuse, unless, of course, you were a filthy pirate. And the future thing was just piss weak excuse to begin with. 2205 then came out. This was shortly after a related design was bought out and pretty much integrated into Blue Byte full stop. And 2205 added the spectacle of going to the moon, expanded upon it, and we introduced multi-sector gameplay, and that was a really nice touch. I really liked multi-sector gameplay. However, in doing so, they tried to do something with the formula, and they broke it. Okay, I myself was smitten with the wonderment of going to the moon. I thought it was a fantastic idea, so I kind of got caught up, and I didn't really see how much they had broken until it was into the late game, and I thought that's a little bit disappointing, but there was enough there to keep me interested in playing the game. We had expandable factories, so they took factory modules and allowed you to customize them depending upon the needs of, you know, what you had available at the time. So you had modules which would reduce the consumption of power, you had modules which would reduce the consumption of workforce, etc, etc, and that was really good. So you could customize the factories, and that meant that developing was interesting. The sector thing as well. Each sector was very much like visiting the Orient in 1404. It had its own rules for construction. In the Arctic, you had to develop around factories to, you know, use the heat from factories to support your people. So you had intertwining communities built around the structures. Oh, here we go. Time for the news.
Indeed, taste half as bad as they say.
Oh, look at that. Hi, I'm CNN.
Do them good. I'm certain they won't read between them. Censorship is not always.
Oh, lovely. So, yes, as I was saying, 2205 multi-sectors had their own rules of playing. For instance, you had the Arctic, where you had to build around the thermal properties of your factories, and then you had then the lunar biome, which you had to build under shields to protect your people from the cosmic radiation of the sun. Again, they weren't massive, but they were integral to the game, and they were introduced early on to keep the game fresh and interesting. This is what Anno 1800 is missing. The heart of Anno is back, is beating, and it's alive and well, but there's nothing added to it. There's nothing great to expand upon it. And that wouldn't be so bad if they hadn't put the royal tax in place. Now, the royal tax was a system they put into this to stop people from slumming. Now, slumming, if you're not familiar with it, is basically what I see a lot of when I'm on the Anno Reddit. Basically, people come along and they go, oh, look at me, I've created something beautiful. No, you've created something from 1970s Russia, complete with homeless people sitting around a burning drum arguing over who has the best tracksuit. What you've created is horrible. And they kind of wanted to stop people doing that. So you've got this emphasis now on creating a pretty city. And you know what? I applaud that. It's nice. The problem is, though, they don't want you to build upwards. The royal tax penalises you for having over 1,000 of any one type of citizen. So if you have an island with, say, 1,000 farmers and 500 workers, and then suddenly you build more farmers, you will be taxed on the farmers. And it's quite punishing, actually, because it can really hurt the economy. I can see why they wanted to do it. They wanted to stop a runaway economy from basically, you fill an island full of level 1 workers, congratulations, you've got no money problems for the rest of the day. And you know what? It's good. And it forces you to move sideways. The problem is, though, in order to move sideways to support the offset of the royal tax, you've got to spend a lot of time moving sideways. You're not moving up through the tiers, you're basically building the sector as a whole. So you're colonising island after island after island, you're putting down more farming communities, you're building more plants to support it. And I'm sorry, but there's not enough in there to make that interesting. You spend more time moving sideways than you do moving upwards through the tiers. Now, this wouldn't be a problem if, at low-level tiers, we had something interesting to make it, make moving sideways more interesting. Like, for instance, we visited the New World, which is the multi-sector expansion world. But even then, there's nothing in it. There's no extra mechanics added. There's nothing to make moving sideways interesting, and that hurts it. It hurts it a lot. I mean, you visit the new world when you get to artisan level, and it's quite late in the game when you get to that. I mean, it's like halfway through artisan level. You went to the Orient in 1404 when you hit tier 2 for the need for spice. You went underwater in the start of tier 3 to get carbon in 2070. You needed space age metals in order to develop to go to the moon, and that was introduced in tier 2. There are some nice toys in this, but they come too late in the game. So the early start is quite boring, and you've got to really push through it to try and get to the late stuff, and that hurts it. It really does. If, for instance, we went to the new world early on to create a new material which was needed, then that would be interesting. And even then, there's no excitement in the new world because there's no gameplay mechanics that are exclusive to the new world. It feels like something is missing. It's been purposefully cut back to be resold as an expansion later on. And they did this with 2205. The base game, after the wonderment of going to the moon, was pretty basic. Okay, it wasn't until the later patches when we had the share market, which was an interesting game. It was like an add-on game, but it wasn't essential to the core game. And the same with the the orbit expansion, where basically modules which were developed, it was kind of like a poor man's research and development from 2070, and they weren't integral to the game, and they shouldn't have to be, because if you want to make money off them, you can't, create essential mechanics and then exclude them from people who don't want to pay. So you end up with a bare bones game, and that's what 1800 is. It's very bare bones, and that's quite a shame, actually. And as a result, I'm not enjoying it. I never thought I'd actually say that, me not enjoying an Anno game. You know what, I've not actually played any of this. I've just sat here ranting about things that I don't like. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things I don't like about it. Production ratios are nice and simple. We've now got, what do we have? Now, the UI is still a bit of a mess. I complained about that during the beta. That's a nice touch. I do like that. It actually tells you now, it gives you a timer as to how long it takes to produce a certain item. So you can actually calculate your ratios without having to go climbing off to the Anno wiki. Although there is the Anno wiki, which has got everything in there. Overall, 1800, it's good, but it needs to be developed further. There's not enough in here to keep experienced Anno players interested. Okay, I just feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over again. There's nothing unique to make it stand out from the previous games. I mean, you look back on, like I said, you look back at 1404, you conquered the Orient early on, and they had its own gameplay mechanics. 2070, you went underwater, again, it had its own mechanics, as science and research and everything else. And then 2205, even though it broke everything, it still had its own unique mechanics to make it interesting. Here, there's nothing. The foundations are in place, everything's all fixed, but it's not building on it. And I'm sorry, but I've hardly touched it as a result. I've put all of 50 hours into this since it came out. I did that in 3 days in 2070. It's been 2 weeks now. And I can see why they're trying to do stuff, but they're not making it interesting. And that's a real shame. That's a real shame. Normally I do wildcards which last like about an hour long, but I don't really want to do anything in this, because it's pointless. There's nothing that's intellectually stimulating. I mean, I could formulate new building strategies built around the world tanks and the renown system. Oh, there's another thing as well. The influence system as well. They've introduced the influence system, and they've expanded upon the thing that they built into 2205. But the way how it's telegraphed is quite poor. Basically, as you level up, you earn influence, and you need to spend influence to do lots of cool shit. Like, for instance, put down new islands. You want to expand outwards to a new island, you got to put down influence as well as the material cost to build it. If you want to use the newspaper to employ better modifiers, you've got to spend influence, which ties it up. And it's not brilliant, because you can snooker yourself for half an hour where you spend points into propaganda only to find that you haven't got enough points to expand an island, which It's like, well, shit, I really need that island. So you're stuck for half an hour doing nothing. And it's not a brilliant system. It could have been telegraphed better. It really could have. So, the long story short is 1800 good? Yes. Basically, all of the Anno heart is back. Is it brilliant? No. There's so many missed opportunities here. I mean, 1800... hang on a second, I'm losing my thought here. There's good stuff in here, but it comes too late. You've got the commuter pier, which allows you to shift workforce between islands and share it. Again, good idea. Comes too late in the game. Tier 4. Okay? You've got the zoo, which, again, it's a nice touch, but it comes a little bit too late in the game, around mid-tier 3. And again, it chews up influence to expand on tourism. Tourism is not essential. It's a money maker, and it encourages you to build pretty. But it's not a massive game changer. It doesn't change the way how you interact with the core heart of Anno. And I don't know. There just needs to be something early on in the game to make it interesting, and it's just not there. It really isn't. I mean, 1800, the Industrial Revolution, we could have had so much fun with that. You could have developed a form of science and research where you needed to develop, tools to increase productivity of plantation. We have access to a trade union, which you can plunk down and socket modules in there. But the influence area affects only buildings within its area of influence, and it's quite small actually. So trying to pack everything in there I don't know. I can see some of the stuff they were trying to do, but it just doesn't quite work. It doesn't expand upon it. It just spreads the formula out sideways, and I don't like that. I really don't, because there's nothing exciting about moving sideways. The Industrial Revolution introduces the need for power, so you need to build a train system and oil and that, which is nice. But it comes at tier 4. Again, too late. Seriously, by the time I've got through halfway through tier 3, I'm bored shitless. It's a real shame, man. There's so many things that could be done with this, but it just feels like a massive missed opportunity. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm actually I'm quite upset, to be honest. I mean, I thought I was genuinely going to enjoy this, but I'm not. If you're a new Anno player and you've never played one, then knock yourself out. You'll enjoy it. But in my eyes, 2070 is still the best Anno, because it just gets so many things right, and the pacing of it is really nice as well. Whereas the pacing here is just plodding. I mean, you've got mechanics which, for instance, when you move ships around, the little 3 arrows next to the ring indicate direction of wind, meaning that obviously a ship sailing into the wind is going to be hindered by it as opposed to going with the wind. When you get to steamships, that's not a problem. But again, it comes too late. That's tier 4. So you've got to piss fart around. It takes forever to do anything. Honestly, I can't play this for longer than an hour without getting bored shitless. Great premise, great option, just doesn't do anything with it, which is a shame. I'm not dismissing it though, I'm not writing it off. I'm going to put it on the shelf, and I'm going to see how it evolves. I'm going to see what expansions and things come out for it, but as it stands right now, it's very bare bones, and it's not exciting in the slightest, which is a real shame.